what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast featuring Phil Perry. We're going to bring in one of the foremost capologists, experts on front offices, talent and player acquisitions. It's Andrew Brandt, former GM for the Green Bay Packers and longtime expert on all things cap. Phil, you looking forward to this?
Love talking to Andrew Brandt, one of the smartest guys in our business, present company excluded.
Included a little.
Included. He's always got great insight for us, so great chance for us to chat him up.
Why do I have Andrew Brandt coming on? Because last week on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, and I recommend Fort Lauderdale to anybody who wants a nice, quick getaway. You're down, it's a quick 3-hour flight on JetBlue, and within 10 minutes, you're on the beach. But I found this because I continue to pine over the fact that in just 2 years, the Patriots are going to be burping up potentially $35 million in fifth-year option money to Mac Jones, if not $45 million in a franchise tag, or they're moving on from him. Because you can't build a team, in my estimation, when you have a $40 million quarterback, especially if he's mid. But here's what Andrew wrote last week, which made me sit upright under my parasol with all my sunscreen on. There's one theory out there that continues to have some traction, one that makes me shake my head every time I see or am asked about it. One that comes even from pundits who have covered the NFL for years. It's this: NFL teams paying market contracts for top quarterbacks either cannot or have a very hard time trying to build a Super Bowl contending team. My unequivocal answer to this is wrong. Andrew continues, I've been on radio programs in places like Philly, Cincy, Baltimore, and Los Angeles, where mega contracts are expected for Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Herbert, respectively. The hosts have the same question. Can our team do what it needs to do now, having to pay the quarterback? My answer is as definitive as it can possibly be. Yes! Let me be even more clear. This idea is a cop-out, a tired excuse and bullshit. Is that clear enough? He dashed on the shit. But I went right with it. But to me, Phil, I got to get into this because you can't tell me that $35 million on the cap or a $140 million contract to a player who might just get you sniffing around the playoffs isn't a freaking albatross. Am I wrong?
How dare you take a shot at Kirk Cousins that way? It can be. It can be. And I'd be interested to hear from Andrew on this because I assume what he means is that it's not the cap number that's necessarily inhibiting teams, but it's the cash and it's ownership's willingness to spend. Because if somebody's $35 million on your cap, it means you probably gave that guy a lot of real dough recently. And so you're a little bit reluctant, I would imagine, to spend real dough on other players to help that guy make a Super Bowl. So again, he'll have all sorts of details for us that we'll be able to sink our teeth into, but I imagine that's what he'll be trying to get at. Because
facts is facts is facts. 3 of the final 4 teams in the NFL playoffs this year had guys on their rookie contracts, correct? San Fran, Cincy, Philly, and KC. That guy in KC, he just got his. He won Super Bowls on his rookie contract. And the guy who won all the Super Bowls in the past decade or two, he was always playing for a little bit less, including, $21 million in 2018 when the Patriots won their final Super Bowl? So, to me, it is a cheat code. And I do want to hear how without a transcendent quarterback, you can build a team without that. And I think Matt Stafford and Jared Goff are going to be awesome examples. So, let's take a beat right here and bring in Andrew. Ladies and gentlemen, as advertised, it's Andrew Brandt, big brain in the building. How are you?
I'm doing good, Tom. Good to be with you.
So I just gave a preamble along with Phil Perry about my contention that it is a cheat code when you have those quarterbacks on their rookie contracts. And once you start saying, we got to cough up $44 million, we have to throw a $160 million contract at this guy, it is a heart attack waiting to happen. Why is it not? Because the Patriots have never, Andrew, I'm droning here, but they've never really had to deal with it because Brady always took less And now they're on the cusp of having to face it with Mac Jones, who's kind of mid.
Yeah, it's a complicated question, but it's a great one. And you brought up something that continues to be one of the mysteries of the business of sports that may never get solved is why did Brady take less? I'll get to that too. But listen, I just think that it's overblown and part of it is personal. I worked on a cap that was in the 50 million total.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a quarterback making 10, 11 million every year, the highest paid quarterback in the league. With Brett Favre doing that for 10 years, it was never an issue like, oh my God, I can't do this. So I just feel like it's a cop-out and excuse, sometimes advanced not only by media, but by teams themselves, saying we can't do this. We got to cut players or whatever it's going to be. Here's a couple of my quick points. Number one, let's just say we're dealing with a $220 million cap, 225, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay a quarterback $40 million, now we'll get to cap versus cash in a minute. But listen, most of these teams, especially the Patriots, probably have 50 to 60% of their roster on rookie contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 draft classes, basically. So that's, if you give each one of those guys a conservative, on the high end, $1 million cap number, say you got half your roster at least for $30 million. Now you got almost $200 million to pay your other 25 players. Now, I understand some veteran contracts are going to be $1 million, some veteran contracts are going to be $40 million, but it's not that hard. What gets teams in trouble is not paying a quarterback $40 million. What gets teams in trouble is, you know what I mean, the cap pushouts that come back to haunt you. Doing a big contract with a guy who makes $30 million, you take it in bonus, you push it out 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a cap number $6 million, but you have $24 million on the books for the future. It doesn't work out with that guy. You got a non-roster dead money charge in the future of $20 million. That's worse than paying a quarterback.
And I just want to interject. You, with Favre, you tried to, as you wrote, pay as you go.
Yeah.
Instead of having these massive contracts with guaranteed money that was prorated over the life. And for folks, I don't want to talk over folks' heads who might not be totally cap conversant, but if you have a 5-year, $10 million contract, $5 million is in bonus, $1 million a year salaries. If you cut that guy after the first year, all that bonus money is going to hit as well.
Accelerates. Yeah.
So I hope that was decent enough explanation, but you didn't like spreading out that much into, you wanted to pay as you go so that there weren't these fat cap hits. Like the Favre one, not like the Rodgers one.
Yeah, I was studying the league at that time and I saw, pick a name. I saw Steve McNair leave behind $25 million on the Titans cap. I saw Mark Brunell leave behind $20 million on the Jaguars cap. And when I say leave behind, that means they did that bonus push-out game. It came back to haunt them when the player retired. Troy Aikman, John Elway, all of them were leaving behind these holes. And I'm like, we can do better than this. Now, that meant not touching, for lack of a better word, Brett's contract.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving it be, not changing it to bonus, not pushing it out. And I'm proud, pat myself on the back. When we parted with Brett a trade, we only took on $600,000 of dead money. So that's the way I did it. Now, let me say this, Tom, you have to be cap surplus to be able to do this. Now, if there are teams that are always bumping up against the cap, you can't do this. You can't pay a guy $20 million in cash and cap if you don't have it. But you look at we're going to get to your team in a minute, but when you look at the Chicago Bears, right now they got $100 million in cap room because they haven't paid anybody on that team.
Mm-hmm.
The whole team is rookie contracts. But let's fast forward a year. Say they got $80 million in cap next year. Justin Fields has a good year. They want to pay him, say, $35-40 million in the first year of the deal. Then you can do cap and cash. You can pay Justin Fields $40 million cash and take on $40 million cap. And then if you ever separate with Justin Fields, you have zero.
So what's cap and cash? Give me a bad example of cap and cash. Not a real world one, unless you have one. Just a hypothetical crap one. Because that 40 and 40 is totally balanced.
Yeah, I'll give you the other side of that. Last year, Matthew Stafford does a deal with the Rams. $60 million bonus. $60 million bonus. So That bonus is prorated over 5 years, 12 a year. So here's a little cap quiz. Just on the bonus, what is his cash number?
12? I mean, Phil, help me.
60.
60. He gets the bonus.
Well,
all
you've got to
once.
give him the cash. Okay, the
Yeah.
cash number, meaning what do you have to give to that individual?
What is his cap number?
It's 60 over 5. So it's
It's
that
12.
that part of
12.
his deal would be 12 per year, right?
So they just saved themselves last year $48 million of cap. But it's got to go somewhere, right? So they better hope against hope that Matthew Stafford never separates from this team, because if he does, it's another. And they've done the vicious cycle, the Rams and the Saints and some other teams where they're just over and over again pushing out cap. Now we've gotten away from the real question. Is my point with the cap is it's fungible. This is kind of a cap 101 lesson for your listeners. One thing the listeners have to realize is cap is accounting. That's all it is. All cap is accounting. When I'm doing the books for a team, all I are looking at them as an analyst, all I care about is the cash. How much is going out to this player? How much is going out to that player?
You mean on an annual basis, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Because
so
the
how
money
much do I have to take out of my pocket and give to this individual? Okay.
That's how management looks at it. Cap is more of a media thing. Cap is like, when agents used to tell me I can make you a low cap number, I'm like, don't tell me about my cap. I'll handle that. You do your thing, I'll do mine. That's my cap, not yours. And I tell people the same thing. They say, what about cap? What about cap? The teams have now, in my day, it was just me. Now there's 3 or 4 people whose only job is to make sure they're cap compliant. They'll handle it. They'll handle the cap. But if you manage a cap well, there's no reason in the world you can't pay your top player 35, 40, 45 million, especially going back to the other examples where you are not cash and cap compliant equal, because the first few years of the deal are going to be low cap. So say they have to pay Mac Jones next year. Are you worried about a cap-ish having to pay other players in 2024? No problem. 2025? No problem. Maybe 2026 gets a little heavy.
Because
Maybe
he's now carrying a big
2027.
number.
Yeah, because most teams are going to do the way where you push out cap. But you have a low cap first year, you usually have a low cap second year, then it hits hard. Like Patrick Mahomes is finally getting into a range of cap right now that is problematic. But he's been in this deal 3 years.
And as that deal goes, the cap for every team across the league goes up. And so maybe it doesn't hurt as much, which is the benefit to pushing it out. I just wanted to, Andrew, I want to sort of ask you the inverse of the statement that Tom sort of started the podcast on, which is it shouldn't prevent you from building a really competitive and a contending team by having this expensive quarterback. Does that mean then that having the inexpensive quarterback isn't quite the advantage that we describe it as over time here, whether it's Mac Jones or Russell Wilson with the Seahawks or Jared Goff with the Rams? We've looked at that rookie contract for a quarterback as the competitive advantage in the sport. Does what you're describing to us mean that that's not necessarily the case?
Absolutely not. That is a competitive advantage. So there's two issues here. My issue is you can't use the cop out. We can't build a Super Bowl team if you have a veteran quarterback making top of market. That is mutually exclusive from what you just said, Phil. It is a competitive advantage. But if you're a team, you got to use it right. In other words, do the pay as you go with other players while you have the rookie contract. One team that did this very well, you mentioned Russell Wilson. They bought and pay as you go players like Michael Bennett, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas. In Seattle, I'm talking about when Russell Wilson's making $400,000. Cam Chancellor. I thought they were masterful at that. They really bought up big time veteran players when they had that. The Eagles did that this year with Jalen Hurts. This is the time to make hay with that. So you don't just say, well, I got a quarterback making $1 million. I'll save $50 million on the cap. No, you spend it all around that player because that's when you have it.
This is good then. This is great because the Patriots had a bounty in 2021 of salary cap space. And because the cap dropped in 2020 after COVID,
Right.
they had whatever was 76 million or something insane, Phil, or 130. Anyway, they shopped like drunken sailors because it's important to make sure that you maintain in New England the level of competitiveness. Plus, you have to spend that money. You can't just say, oh, wow.
Right.
So the Aguilar and John Smith contracts haven't worked out at all. Kendrick Bourne was a mixed bag. Hunter Henry's been okay. Last year, for instance, they spent $10 million in guaranteed money on a right tackle who basically couldn't play at all for them in Isaiah Wynn. Guaranteed because they picked up his fifth-year option. Have they, in a way, kind of pissed away the first 2 years of this rookie contract? And can they make up for it this year with some renegotiations? It's getting interesting here in New England in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, the renegotiations only push out the problem. So that's not the way. But the way to make up for that is to, if you don't like the player, take the cap hit now rather than next year, or obviously buy some more players while you have this window with such a low contract for the quarterback. You know, I think the big issue with quarterbacks to me is we don't have a middle class. You know, we have the rookie level, we have the backup level, some high paid backups in the 7 to 10 million range. And then we're just getting into the $35, $40 million range. I thought Daniel Jones and Geno Smith would be those middle guys, you know, would take a deal for 20 to 25, maybe 25 to 30 million a year. But look what happened. They blew up this year, both of those guys. So now they're looking at a minimum franchise tag of 32 million. So I'm waiting to see who's going to be that middle class quarterback. Maybe it's Garoppolo, maybe it's Derek Carr's probably going to be in that higher level too. So that way you could have some precedent. Or maybe it is, you know, a young quarterback that's not Burrow or Hurts or Herbert. Maybe Mac Jones has a middling year and they don't sign him to a $35 million contract because he's just not that player.
What if Mac Jones can be convinced to be Brady 2.0 and start taking less? You said you had some thoughts on that.
I still don't know why he did it, because this cash versus cap is what I try to explain to people. People say he wanted to win, he wanted to have players around him. Every quarterback does the cap thing, right? Except with me, Brett Favre. But everyone does the cap thing, right? That's easy. You get the same money. The Brady thing was just when top quarterbacks are making 30, he's making 20. I never got that. If he wanted to help the team win, of course, push out cap, make it easier for the short term. But he actually took less cash, which I don't know why, because
the Patriots don't have a lot of money. It's not an affluent group. It's not an affluent area here in the Northeast.
Yeah. He's only helping out the Crafts, taking less money, you know, and maybe it wasn't 10 million. Maybe, you know, it was 5 million 1 year, 6 million. I'm just talking about what the top of the market was. He wasn't getting it. And he didn't do that in Tampa. He took top of market money in Tampa.
Did he though? The 25 million over 2 years. And that's what he only wanted from the Patriots was $25 million each year guaranteed. So 25 and 25. He wanted that cold, hard cash from the Patriots. And my understanding is Bill Belichick said, hey, I can give you $22.5 million against my cap this year. That's all I can give you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do 25, Tom. And that was when Brady walked out and said he still thinks I'm on the team. That was in March of 2020.
I never understood. Even some of those renegotiations, there was 1 year where Brady had all these incentives to make more money, but it was like being top 5 in the league.
It pissed him off.
Yeah, it wasn't like the normal incentives where you just show up and you get a couple million. A guy like Tom Brady, yeah, of course. Sure.
And that really pissed him off. That was 2017 going into 18, right, Phil? 17 going into 18. There were 5 $1 million incentives to take it from 18 to potentially $23 million, which was still penny hill.
They were high threshold incentives. They weren't gimmies.
No,
right?
And he didn't hit a single one of them, which pissed him off even more.
I bet.
Anyway, I love the way I'm really appreciating the way that you're breaking this down for us, Andrew, because I think now, you know, it's sort of just making more sense to me when you sort of follow it sequentially and understanding why people say, well, the high paid quarterback does hurt your chances. Well, if you're trying to max out on the low paid quarterback, by signing a bunch of free agents to maximize that low money quarterback window. Odds are those guys' cap numbers are climbing as the quarterback's getting older and the quarterback starts eyeing the new deal. And maybe a few of those free agents, just because the nature of free agency is what it is, a few of those guys don't work. Right. So now you've got dead money against your cap. You've got climbing cap numbers for all these veterans that you signed to try to max out your rookie, and you're kind of up against it. And then the rookie quarterback, or the guy who's on the rookie quarterback contract, now he wants his big deal, and you've got to start cutting left and right just to make sure that you can keep that guy. That to me is, if teams did it the way that you did it with Brett Favre, and you could from the beginning sort of, I guess, plan out a little bit better, or just be, I don't know if that's just, fiscal responsibility or what, Andrew, but if you could just be a little bit more prudent in terms of approaching that big money quarterback deal, eventually, maybe it wouldn't be the albatross that we all see it as right now.
You got to have some, again, it's a vicious cycle, because I was fortunate that we created cap room and we tried to live in that realm. If you're starting behind the eight ball, it's tough to do that. And you're always pushing out and pushing out. A team like the Falcons last year, they took the bullet. They traded Matt Ryan, took on $40 million. Imagine how many players you could sign with $40 million. It's cap room. They took on a $40 million hit, which my team, the Packers, might do this year with Aaron. $40 million.
Would you?
I thought this was an Aaron-free podcast. No. Would I move on from Aaron?
Conceivably, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah.
I think it's time. It's eerie, Tom, how deja vu this is for me.
Unbelievable. Because
we had a first-round quarterback named Aaron Rodgers who sat for 3 years, and we felt like we're ready to turn it over. We thought he was ready. And now they have a quarterback who sat for
the same Hamlet stuff that we're seeing now.
And I think he's ready. I don't know, but I think Jordan. Can you imagine going to Jordan Love and saying, "Hey, by the way, it's going to be 5th year before you play," or 6th year?
Which is what kind of almost was happening with Garoppolo until the Patriots got to a point where they said, we have to do something. And they tried to reward him, send him to a good home and everything else.
Yeah.
My last question is this, just to articulate for fans, because we have a radio host who's actually Green Bay guy, Michael Felger. He's on 98.5. He's on our channel, the NBC Sports Boston. And he has made the mantra, cap is crap, tremendous a byproduct. He can make t-shirts because he believes, as you do to an extent, that you can do whatever you want to do with the cap. Don't talk to me about the cap. And I'm one of those people, and Phil is to an extent too, where we're like, well, you're going to hose yourself against the cap if you do X, Y, and Z. How big of a and he'll often point to what you point to, which is cash, hard money.
Yeah.
How big of an advantage is it when you're an affluent team, point blank, when you're the New England Patriots instead of the Arizona Cardinals?
I think you can bonus out better. You can look at a contract in terms of a free agent, and if one of them's offering a certain amount of money, one's offering a certain amount of money, the cash-rich teams can put it in bonus. This is Jerry Jones, how he structures his contract. They are very bonus heavy and light on salary. And salary is paid out from September to December. It's much easier on your checkbook. It's much easier on your cash flow. Bonuses are bonuses, and they give players extraordinary leverage having that money in March or wherever it is. And Jones would always outbid teams, not with more overall money, but with better cash flow. Even rookie contracts, they're all predetermined by the CBA, but what is not predetermined is cash flow. So you got these first rounders making $29, $30 million bonuses. If they're drafted by the Raiders, the Cardinals, there's going to be a death in that negotiation of payment terms. If they're drafted by the Cowboys, the Rams, that payment term is going to be pretty easy for the player. You're going to get most of it, if not all of it, right away. So those things do matter. And, you triggered something with Garoppolo too, Tom. He is an example of the pay-as-you-go. He goes to San Francisco. They had an abundance of cap room.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave him $40 million, I believe, total first year. They took a first year cap hit of like $38 million. So if and when they separate from Garoppolo, which is going to be any minute, I think, they got nothing on the books, zero, like maybe a few $100,000. I mean, that is a perfect management of a big contract.
How would you progress with Mac Jones? Using your football acumen and your cap acumen. Is he a mirror image of Daniel Jones in his situation? He's entering his third year. He's had a good year. He's had a horrible year with an asterisk. What would you proceed? I mean, to me, he looks like Ryan Tannehill. He should slide into the Ryan Tannehill level of quarterback when he gets to his second contract, which you remember 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
He's the middle class guy, upper middle class guy.
Well, for better or worse, I think his entire financial future has nothing to do with anything before now. It's all about this year.
Mm-hmm.
For a player like that, it's all about a contract year. But if he gets to year 4, there's no requirement the Patriots do a deal. People say, oh, he's going to be upset. Upset. He's got a year left and an option year. Like, the Patriots have the leverage. This is the Baker Mayfield model, where they just said, nah, we'll keep it going. And for that matter, Lamar Jackson, like, nah, we're just not ready, And it's heresy to think the Bengals would do that with Burrow, or the Chargers with Herbert, or the Eagles with Hurts. But those players are a different level. And, the Patriots are known as being some pretty hard-ass negotiators.
Mm-hmm.
So they could, this time next year, they could say, well, yeah, let's go another year. Or another year, put the option on. And then, of course, they have the tag ultimately after 5 years. So people sometimes, and the Carson Wentz, Jared Goff examples were cautionary tales, I think, especially for Mayfield, where they're like, no, we don't need to jump in. Why should we jump in right after the third year? Just because they did for Joe Burrow or Carson Wentz or Josh Allen? I mean,
everybody else is getting married.
Well, that's going to be the player argument, but Mac Jones better than I do. I don't think he's going to be a pain in the what, like Kyler Murray was. And I don't know how they feel about that Kyler Murray deal now.
Yeah. Phil,
would you just draft a quarterback at every opportunity between now and whenever that decision comes on Mac?
Yeah, I mean, drafting a quarterback, people talk about that a lot. It's one thing to draft a quarterback low. That's just a crapshoot. Drafting a quarterback high is a real pick. So high meaning, I guess, first 3 rounds. So I don't know. We did in Green Bay every year, and we ended up trading them all because Brett was never going to retire. And
how many did you trade? Did you trade Brunell?
We traded Brunell. We traded Aaron Brooks.
Hasselbeck?
My guy Hasselbeck. Maybe others too. Ty Detmer.
Were you Flynn came later, right?
Flynn was after me. Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah, but now they're doing first round picks. They're not going to trade those. They're not trading Jordan Love.
We kept you a half an hour here, my friend. Was billed as 15 minutes. Lie.
That's all right. We're talking cap, no problem.
This was great. Andrew Brandt, thank you so much for being generous with your time and making us smarter. Come around a little bit. But it's all intertwined. You can't give that guy that deal if you are not hitting on your free agents and not hitting on your draft picks. If you're hitting on Tyquan Thornton, who cares what you have to pay? Because he's on his rookie deal.
I'll just leave you with this. When our coach, Mike McCarthy, or GM Ron Wolf used to come to me, Andrew, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do that? And this happens in every front office in the NFL. The answer is, if you don't care about next, 2 years from now, we can do anything. You don't care about 2024, 25, sure, anything you want, anything. But if you care about the future, let's hold a little bit there. It's a zero-sum game, not 1 year, but over a long period of time. You look at the detritus going on with the Rams and the Saints right now. I mean, they can't even cut guys because it hurts their cap too much to cut them. So you don't want to get there. And again, the Rams, everyone says, well, they want it. Okay. They won it, but they're now old, cap strapped with no draft picks.
And
who
that's
wants
not going to ignite the fan base. It's not going to ignite the local advertisers and sponsors either.
Right. So
costing.
cap is not crap, but it's just accounting. So you can do things. You just have to recognize it's going to come home to roost at some point.
Good deal. Andrew, we will untether you right now. We thank you very much.
All right, guys.
Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
All right. Post game. So as he was talking, some of your questions were really good. Had they hit on Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry and guys like that, they'd be in an awesome position right now. They still can. They could still shop pretty heavy in this offseason, even though the draft is a better class for them than the free agency, but they could still shop pretty heavy right now because in 23 and 24, they have manageable MAC time.
Yeah. And I would say, even looking ahead to when they might have to give Mac Jones that big contract or that big option or whatever it is against their cap, they've set up those contracts that they signed a couple off seasons ago pretty well in such a way that, again, if he lights the world on fire in year 3, Mac Jones, they're going to have an out for Jonnu Smith, by the time 2025, is here. I don't think his contract even goes that long. Better than I. You've been hotter on these current player contracts than me, but
Hunter's up this year. Hunter Henry's up this year. Jonnu, I think, is up maybe perhaps in 2 years after 2024.
So, I do know just from our friends at Over the Cap, it's not just this offseason that they're in pretty good cap shape. It's the next several, over the course of the next 3, they have fewer cap commitments than I think any team. And if it's not them at the top of the list, it's they're second or third. So, if and when that comes to pass, they'll have the funds and they'll have the accounting ability to give Mac Jones what he needs. It's just a question of, is he surrounded by enough to actually go and win anything?
And that's why the draft picks that they weren't hitting on from 13 to 19 needed to turn around. And they may have done so with Kyle Duggar. Could be a borderline Pro Bowl player. Cole Strange, if he matures, Mike Nguyen, who's a good player. Tyquan Thornton could perhaps turn into a decent player. Those are the guys that they'll have to build and rely on, Josh Uche, et cetera. But again, they have how many draft picks? 12, Phil? Go ahead.
Well, it's some of those guys will actually get paid before Mac does, maybe.
Yep.
Kyle Duggar is going into the last year of his contract. Same with Josh Uche. Christian Barmore is the same draft class as Mac Jones. So the pressure remains. Like, the pressure is still on for them to hit in these drafts. They've come away with a few good players over the course of the last 3 years, but the next couple are going to matter quite a bit. Again, if you're going to, and we don't know, but if you're going to be allocating that much money to your quarterback.
Yeah, great point, because it's almost as if that period of time when Mac was low and Duggar was playing well and the defense was playing well, you needed to be better. And because of decisions made on the offensive side of the ball, they had an ass season. So this is the year in so many ways all around that the Patriots need to kick it in heavy. Kick it in.
Agreeance. Kick it in. And can I just applaud you on your use of the word mid? You dropped a couple of those on this podcast. And I just want to say, for all the Gen Zers out there that listen to the pod, well done. Well done. I'm not a Gen Zer myself, but I'm sure they would be very proud of how you deployed that particular word. He
is the epitome of mid at the moment.
I don't think I wouldn't say that. I don't think you can say that just yet about him.
My friend Matt Castle has him as the 48th best quarterback in all professional leagues. He's got a couple XFL guys better than him. Oh
God. I talked to Castle the day after that came out and I said, "What are you doing with this list?" He's like, I know I'm getting killed on Twitter. He's like, quarterbacks 11 through, he's trying to argue it that, quarterbacks 11 through 28, you put them in pretty much any order you want. All right, Matt. Well, the damage has already been done, buddy. We've already yelled at you behind your back on TV on multiple occasions. So he knows that. He's okay with it. He's just he's a walking click machine now, Matt Castle is.
Yeah. Is he built for it?
We'll see. We'll see. This was his first walk through the hot coals, I believe.
He's going to have to compare notes with Chris Sims, another former NFL quarterback who went past through New England. Does Chris have a good time with it? I don't think so. While we're at it, Phil, my friend Jane Hill, you know Jane, I think. Longtime fan of the pod, active on the Twitter machine.
Sure.
He sent me this. I don't know if she bought it or had it, but she she suggested that I make sure that I display this prominently going forward.
Oh, wait, is that Teddy Bridgewater? Wait, I can't see it. Oh, it's Donovan McNabb.
It's a Donovan McNabb bobblehead, ladies and gentlemen. Is that Teddy Bridgewater?
I thought it was Bridgewater
He does
on the
have a
Jets.
5 on.
I thought he was Bridgewater on the Jets.
No, he does.
Because you're a
have
big
5.
Teddy Bridgewater guy too.
I am a big Teddy Bridgewater guy. Who is it? I know. He thought you were Teddy Bridgewater. I know.
Sorry about that, Donovan. Looking trim, Donovan. That's not the Donovan McNabb I remember.
No. Donovan, it's first time. All right, people, we're going to wrap it up. I got to get up to TV. Phil's already in Needham. You've got how many mock drafts are out so far?
I think we're up to 103, but we've got one up from this week, which is pretty good. Patriots trade down. They still get a top flight receiver in this year's draft class, in my opinion. Pretty exciting.
You got to click on it to find out.
Oh, Donovan. Come on, man.
Sorry. Good night.